Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. So, my title today is free speech really free? But before I get into that, I want to do just a couple of quick updates. So, as you know, on July 9th, they had their Cyber Polygon with the World Economic Forum. And there were three basic things that came from that 6-hour meeting that they had, and it was mainly a lot of interaction with between Russia and the United States. So the three basic things that came from that. The first one is they want to justify the centralization of power and control over the internet by exploiting, of course, the ransomware attacks and our CV-19. So they want to make this a really big thing as a means to have complete control over everything on the internet centralized to a specific agency. I don't have to tell you why that's not necessarily a good thing. The second one is that they want to steer us towards a central bank digital currencies. So they're trying to they will try to get rid of like your cryptocurrencies and things like that. They want to consolidate all of the banking power by having all of everybody globally, the banking transactions recorded on a centralized ledger. And again, I think we can all understand why this is not a good thing. They will basically know what you're buying, selling, seeing, everything, and they will have control over your bank account because it'll all be centralized. The third thing is they want to strengthen public and private partnerships. So basically, again, this is a centralized system of governance rather than like here in the United States, if your school wants to do something, they put it on to a vote to the people, right? So the people can decide if they want to spend that much money in the district. They're not going to operate by the will of the people. They will strengthen those private and public partnerships, and then basically they again will have that centralized control over how we are governed. And at the direction that we're going right now, I don't think that that's a good thing. Just saying. I don't think anybody does, you know. We, the people, should be able to govern our government, not the other way around. And it's becoming increasingly difficult for we, the people, to stand up to anything that's going on. So I want to give a shout out to Tim Hinchliff from The Sociable. He's the one that kind of really broke things down. I watched probably 4 hours of that 6-hour meeting that they had, and then of course their role playing in cybersecurity went on. I believe it was for 24 hours, and I obviously wasn't going to pay attention to that a whole lot. But all of these things that were talked about during this Polygon meeting, Cyber Polygon meeting, basically they're centralizing everything. They want that one world government that controls the banking, the internet, everything, you know, media, and it will lead to, as I think we're already seeing, a war on Christians, a war on patriots. And I'm not talking just United States patriots. Look at what's happening in Cuba right now, right? The people want to be free. And to express that, they're holding up our wonderful American flag because it stands for freedom. So when I say patriots, I mean patriots globally. people who love their country, people who love the freedom of speech, freedom to choose what you want to do, and the ability to have free speech. So many people, Revelations 13:1 and Daniel 7:16 through 24 talk about that one world system. And a lot of people believe that that's exactly where we're headed right now. So I'd like your opinion on that, if you can, in the comment section below. You know, is this the end times? What do you think? So the biggest part of this video I want to talk about is free speech. And you're going to see me use quotations a lot in this part because so to the question, is free speech really free? My short answer would be no. Not at all. Okay. The long answer is it depends on community standards, and that's a really important phrase to remember. So I looked up Facebook's community standards. I looked up several others, but you know, Facebook is probably one of the top social media sites. So what they say, and this is quoting their site: the Facebook company wants people to be able to talk openly about the issues that matter to them, even if some may disagree or find them objectionable. Okay? But then you read further into their community standards and you find out why they justify the silencing of conservative views. They're highlighting authenticity, safety, and they have a policy rationale on the spread of false news, right? And you can find this, you can look up Facebook's Transparency Center. That's where you're going to find their community standards, so that you can read more about these. So authenticity, they want to make sure that you are who you say you are and that you actually believe in the values that you're putting on Facebook. Okay, now we all know that fake Facebook accounts are set up all the time, right? By people who want to do bad things to other people. They don't seem to get stopped. Our safety. So, you know, obviously we can't go on there and talk about, you know, killing anybody or anything like that. I mean, that's common sense stuff, right? But yet they can have other countries and governments on Facebook that use weapons against their own people on a daily basis, and somehow that's okay. So there's a lot of double standards in these community standards. So what it's coming down to is that essentially, especially if they get this centralized internet, we already know that anything you put on social media is not private, right? They're even going to start fact-checking your text messages on your phone. You know, these are supposed to be private interactions between you and whoever, and they want to start fact-checking your text messages even. So essentially what you post is free speech unless they determine it's not in the best interest of other social media users. That's how they get around censorship. Okay? So community standards are found at your schools, your courthouses, other public venues, but that's how they are allowed to censor and control your speech, because they put it all under that community standards headline. So I want you to keep this in mind. So do you remember when BLM and Antifa were publicly and loudly using phrases that were intended to target and harm law enforcement? Well, again, the community standards of that group allow them to use hateful and inciting speech, because that's their community standard. But when you have Trump calling for support of patriotism at the White House, that was considered insurrectionist because it didn't fit the left's community standards. Okay, do you see the hypocrisy here? Actors and actresses and, you know, so-called comedians, which I don't find hardly any of them funny anymore, you know, they're allowed to hold up severed heads of Trump, and I think one of them talked about blowing up the White House when Trump was in there, or if he was going to get in there. But nothing happened to them because that's their community standards of free speech. But heaven forbid, should a conservative patriot say that Joe is not their president, fact checkers are going to be like, oh, nope, can't be saying that. That's hurting and that's insightful. It just does not make any sense. And this is only the beginning. You know that they've been talking about, you know, we can't use mother, we have to use birthing parent. Well, we don't have to. I'm certainly not going to. I'm a mother and proud of it. You're not going to be able to say that he, she, man, woman, blah, blah, blah. I am going to continue to use my First Amendment right. Okay? Until that First Amendment goes away, I really don't care what their community standards say. I have a right to my opinion. I have a right to express that opinion. And if someone has a dissenting view of my opinion, I would be happy to sit down and have a conversation. I'm not going to threaten you. I'm not going to belittle you. I'm not going to incite violence against you. But I certainly would be willing to sit down and say, what in God's name are you thinking? Why would you think that way? Right? But let's have that conversation. Don't take away my free speech because it doesn't fit their community standards. So I want you to look up some of these community standards on some of the sites that you use, okay? Whether it's social media or, you know, if you're in some kind of a prepping group on Facebook or, you know, whatever it might be. Look up their community standards and see the ambiguous language that they use so as not to, so as to be able to keep that control over what they want to censor. Just a thought for you. So it was really hard for me when I was thinking about this because I obviously get really upset. You know, I see where our country is headed, not happy about it. And I have to kind of rein that in a little bit and remember who all of this is for. It is for we the people. It's for my children and my grandchildren and my family and my friends and my loved one. That's what this fight is all about. But I want to read from Psalms chapter 62, verses 5 through 8. And I wouldn't normally do this. Y'all know where I stand. I don't need to prove that. But these verses really spoke to me when I was doing this video. So this is again Psalms chapter 62, verses 5 through 8. My soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. In God is my salvation and my glory, the rock of my strength, and my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, ye people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. So hang in there, hold the line. Let's start moving that line and use God as our strength and our rock. Hope you all are having a wonderful day. God bless.